welcome to the MMA Fan Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Stu and Blake.
I appreciate your time, Liam. Really do, mate.
No problem, mate. Not a problem. We got there in the end. I know you've been chasing me down a bit. You know what I do? I get so bored. I get loads of stuff on, and then I can't do any. I don't have any time to do any of it all. I do it all the time. I'm a fucking idiot.
Was you back out in Dubai again?
Fill all my time up. Say that again, mate.
Was you back out in Dubai last week?
Oh yeah, but that one, no, there was no work going on there, mate. That was just like fucking ridiculous partying.
Did you catch up with Woodham?
Yeah. I met up with Jay and them boys, and did a bit of filming on first day in his gym there, but then the rest of it was just like playtime because I just had my fight camp. I'd had a fight, and then I had stem cell treatment on my knee, so I've not had a drink or anything for like nearly 3 and 4 months. So I've just been living clean, and then I thought, right, I'm gonna go for a blowout, but then I nearly had a fucking mental breakdown. I can't do that shit anymore. I'm too old.
So what was the stem cell? What happens with the knee?
So I've been in absolute agony for the last 3 years, mate. Like about 3 years ago, I tore my meniscus, and what happened was it got stuck in the back of my knee joint. So they couldn't repair it, and they said, right, we can probably repair it, but you're going to be out for 6 months to a year. I said, I ain't got 6 months to a year, so I need to get back in that ring ASAP. Said, right, we can trim it away, and then you're going to have obviously no meniscus left, but you're going to get problems in later life. So that was 3 years ago. I went, right, how long will it take before I'm back in gym? And they said, you'll be back in gym in like 3 weeks. I went, fuck yeah, right, I'd do that. I said, I'll worry about anything else when that time comes. But then, like, I was in pain all the time training. And then eventually, like, it had rubbed away, like, the rest of the, like, remaining cartilage and that. So I just got the stem cell treatment to try and, like, regenerate a bit of what little cartilage I had left. And even just walking about up for the last couple of years, I were in pain. Getting through a fight camp for agony. I could manage to do it, but I was masking it with like cortisone injections and visco supplements to keep it lubed up inside. And it was just costing like money every time. And I were in pain all the time. So I thought, you know what, I'll try this stem cell. I know a few people who swore by it and they had similar injuries to mine. And they said, I got amazing results. But it all depends on like your body type, how your body reacts to it and stuff like that. I spoke to Joe Rogan about it and he said, get it done. He said, because he swore by it.
Yeah.
I spoke to like a doctor in Australia who like looked into it and said, no, it's a load of shit. I was like, fucking hell, thinking, what shall I do here? Shall I just bite the bullet? 'Cause it's expensive.
Yeah.
But I did it. And since I've had it done, walking around, I'm not in any pain. I've started back like getting and doing my training slightly. I've started back boxing. I'm back doing S&C. I'm back on my exercise bike. There's no pain doing any of that. And all of it was just a fucking chore for the last couple of years. Like getting on a bike or a treadmill, I was thinking, oh God, this is going to hurt. But yeah, there's no pain at all anymore now. So even if it does start to hurt during the fight camp, at least it's not hurting me when I'm just walking around like it was doing. So
yeah, I mean, that must have been agony. That must have, like, again, you're saying you're walking around that it's painful. Like, how was it when someone kicked it?
Getting kicked on me like it wasn't too bad because as long as I held my leg like stable in a solid position and kept it strong, it wasn't too bad. But if someone caught me like and my leg were like a bit off balance and like my knee went into something like that, that wasn't nice. It would just stuck me on more stuff like my S&C and my running and stuff like that. So like my heavy squats on my deadlifts and that sort of thing, that were hurting. But like my sprints, I because I'm quite explosive when I fight, I always think, right, I need to make sure high intensity sprints, high intensity rowing machine and stuff like that. I do a lot of stuff like that. And that was awful, especially doing the hill sprints on the treadmill and stuff like that. But yeah, like now it's not hurting at all anymore when I'm walking. I'm guessing there might be a bit of discomfort when I go back into a full fight camp, but for now I'm happy with the results.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, look, normally we'd have a quick chat and then do like what I call the fake hello and go like, oh, now we got to pretend. But all that's really interesting. Are you happy if we just keep that
get
in?
Get it all in, man. Let's just go.
Let's crack on because that's all really interesting stuff. That's fascinating stuff.
Nah, keep that in there, definitely. Yeah.
Cool. Well, Stu, you want to crack on?
Yeah, I just want to kind of go back to the beginning, please, Liam, and just kind of first of all sort of tell us like where it was that you grew up, and I guess how you got into fighting, and then I'm going to load the question as well, and just tell me a little bit about Richard Smith's part in your life.
Yeah, so I grew up in Leeds, born and bred in Leeds, bit of a rough council estate area, a place called Harrells. bit of a rough area. If you didn't know how to fight like around there, you'd get eaten alive, to be honest. I started Thai boxing when I was 13. I only went to the gym because I was playing a lot of football. Like football was my main hobby. I loved football. My cousin had just started, Andy House, and he ended up being he's retired now, but he ended up being a 5-time world champion himself. So he took me down to the gym. He just, this new sport I'm trying out, it's really good. If one, it'll teach you a bit of self-defense, and two, it'll be good for your foootball, for your fitness and stuff like that. It'll just keep your fitness levels up. So I know, yeah, sure, I'll come down. I'll give it a go with you and stuff. So I went down, and it's like the first session, just like walking into the gym, seeing everyone. Like at that time, Bad Company has probably been one of the best gyms in Europe. It's probably for the last 15 years. This was probably about 20. How old am I now? This was 22 years ago. This when I walked into that gym, or 23 years ago. And even then, at that point, they still had a lot of British champions in there. They had a lot of good level fighters. So when I walked in and seen all these guys hitting the pads, I was like, "Oh shit, this is amazing." Then when I got to hit the pads and stuff myself, it wasn't until my first sparring session after about a month when me and Andy got to spar each other, and then I thought, "Wow, fucking hell, this is addictive." And after that first sparring session, that was it. Then I was hooked. I obviously carried on playing football as well. I was playing at quite a decent level. I trialled at quite a few decent clubs like Leeds, Sheffield Wednesday, and a few others and stuff like that. They had scouts looking at me. But then, as soon as I had my first fight after like 6 months, that were it. Football just took the back step. Then I was literally obsessed by Thai boxing, and that were it. Obviously, the gym was run by Richard Smith, and he just like took me under his wing. He said he'd recognise some potential in me and Andy straight away as soon as we started. So yeah, I was hooked, and he guided me, because I was still being a bit of a little naughty kid at times, and like if I were ever being a little bastard on streets or anything like that, my dad found out. He'd just take me to the gym, and he knew how much I loved Thai boxing. He said, "Take me to the gym." He'd say, "Richard, tell him if you don't behave, he can't come and train." And that was my punishment, and that like kept me in line, because yeah, like I said, it was a bit of a rough area where I grew up in, and like it would have been quite easy to just like stray off, because a lot of my friends ended up in like jail and Borstals and care homes and all the rest of it and stuff. So it'd been quite easy to probably follow their footsteps. But Richard and Bad Company gym, it like kept me in line right through my teen years.
And did Muay Thai, like obviously being very athletic and being very sort of skilled at football at that point, did you take some level of sort of just a sort of core athletic ability to Muay Thai, and did Muay Thai, and I'm taking nothing away from how difficult it is to learn Thai boxing, did it come quite easy to you, like the training? Was it something that you felt comfortable doing and felt like you had a knack for, or an ability to do?
For my age, I was always very fast, very explosive, and very physically strong, but technically I didn't really pick it up like that. But because I was so obsessed with training now, my fitness levels and my strength and my determination, that's what won me a lot of my early fights. But I didn't really get like technically very good until I'd had quite a few fights, and I'd been at it for a couple of years. I think that was just through with the fact that I was so obsessed by it. I was always the first one through the door and the last one to leave, and I had no choice other than just to get myself better technically. I didn't like, you get some people who just walk in the gym and you'll watch them kicking the punch like after a couple of sessions and be like, wow, they look like they've been at this for years. I wasn't like that. I was always very raw. But like I said, because I was strong and I was fast, and I trained harder than anyone else in the gym, even all the adults. I were always there right to the end. So yeah, that took me up the rankings early in my career. But like when I started to come across like a bit better fighters, like my technical level had to go up, and I had to like spend a little bit more time, and I had to work less on like my power and stuff like that, and work more on the technical side.
You mentioned your early fights there, and your first ever fight, correct me if I'm wrong, your pro debut, you were 14 years old, taking on a grown man and knocked him out in about 30 seconds. I mean, for a 14-year-old boy to do that, you must have felt invincible. I mean, I can't imagine what a 14-year-old boy must think when he's just knocked a bloke out in his pro debut in 30 seconds. And also that bloke is a grown man, not someone your own age. And B, can I just say, from my very kind of like geeky non-fightery perspective, my immediate thought is that can't be legal. that's not right. You're
So
14.
what we did was we lied about my age because
Right.
I had a fight. I had a fight when I was 13 when I started, and I had a fight in like all these pads and stuff like that. And then my 14th birthday come, and I hated it in all the pads. I said to Richard, I'm not doing that again. I said, I'm not doing it. I said, you put me in like fight against the older guys. And he said, right. The thing is, he had a gauge and he knew I was probably strong enough and fit enough and I'd be able to fight with these guys. So he wasn't just like he was just throwing me in at the deep end. I was like really advanced for my age. Like I fight at 63 to 65 kilos. When I was 14, I was fighting at 59. So it's only like 7-8 pounds difference. So I was similar size to what I am now. Obviously, didn't have as much muscle or anything, but I was still similar height and that. So I want like a small 14-year-old. I was quite big. So I said, like, look, I'm not doing that again. And then we got a call from this gym. And they said, oh, we've got a 16-year-old lad here. Will Liam fight him? So I said, yeah, just tell him I'm 16. So Rich went, all right. So we just told him we were 16 for this pro fight. So then we went to the weigh-in. We both weighed in. And then I watched him jump in his Golf GTI and drive off. And I'm like, he's clearly not 16. He just fucking drove himself to But I was 14 and I had no fear at all whatsoever. I was young, I was cocky, I was arrogant. I'd had a couple of fights like with the pads on, I'd won them, so I was like buzzing. And then it turned out he ended up being 19, nearly 20 years old he was. So he was like a man basically. And yeah, I knocked him out in I think about 45 seconds-ish. I knocked him out in the first round.
But so I mean, if you're going into it with no fear, what were the emotions, if you can remember, coming out of that fight and just thinking, I'm a 14-year-old boy that's just sparked someone in my first ever fight? Like, what were the emotions? You probably were a nightmare, let's be honest.
Oh, honestly, I'm running around like a Viagra pill with a face, man. That's how I Yeah, yeah, I was a right cocky little bastard. I think back to myself now, thinking, oh, what a knobhead. But after anyone at that age, I remember I got paid 50 quid as well for that fight. It was the first time I'd been paid. I think 50 quid. I'm only 14. I was buzzing, thinking, oh yeah, beauty. I'll spend that on loads of vodka on Park later. But yeah, it was just like, yeah. After that though, I got like into like a real like a big winning streak then. So I had that fight, and Richard just went, right, you're in here now. You're fighting with the adults. Let's just keep you active, keep you getting the experience. I will fight like once or twice a month. I remember one time I had a football trial at Barnsley. I was playing for Leeds City Boys, and the Barnsley scouts came to watch me play on the Saturday. Before the game, Richard rang me and went, right, there's a fight for you tomorrow. Do you want to fight? I was 15 at the time, and it was against a bloke. And I said, yeah. He said, right, you need to come weigh in. He said, I can't weigh in. I said, I'm playing football. So my opponent weighed in the day before. I had to go to the fight on the day, weigh in on the day. Even though he was miles bigger than me, because he'd already rehydrated weight back on. And I'm just football on the Saturday. I said, the guy didn't want me. I scored, and then I fought on the Sunday, and I won the fight as well. So I was doing stuff like that, like juggling fights with football. And I was literally fighting once a month. I was having 9 or 10 fights a year. And I just kept really, really active. And I went my first 29 pro fights. I went all unbeaten. I was the UK number 1 when I was 17. And then I'd gone to Japan when I was 18. I knocked out them. And then when I was 18, I won my first world title under kickboxing rules. And then, yeah, that were in Italy. Again, I took that on 3 weeks' notice as well. Richard just rang me and went, right, do you want to go to Italy and fight for a world title? And I'm like, oh, shit, yeah, 100%. I'd not even won a British title, but I was ranked number 1 in the UK. I'd surpassed fighting for titles. Basically, I went straight to fight the guy who ranked number 1. There was no title on the line, just me and him. I won that fight. And then I won a few other fights. And then Richard went, right, do you want to go to Italy and fight for a world title? And I'm like, yeah. And then I just got like, everything just went so fast. I'm doing that first fight in 14. I'm fighting every month. Next thing I knew it, I was UK number 1. Next thing I was fighting in Japan. Next thing I was fighting Thais. Next thing I was world champion. It all just snowballed like really fast.
Is this the best place for you in terms of internet connection? Just because every now and again we're getting you to you're freezing or breaking up a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's all right.
This should be a bit better over here. Wi-Fi should be right behind me.
Yeah, no, don't worry. So, I mean, you just saying there, like you went on this huge winning streak, world champion. It must have been just so incredible for you, this run in such a short space of time as well, and at such a young age. But when you did get your first loss, how difficult was that mentally to overcome? Did that really hit you hard? Because it must have been a bit of a shock considering the success you had.
Yeah, like I said, when I felt invincible because I'd beat a couple of Thais. None of them were Thai champions, but good level Thais who were decent level. And obviously the Thais are the pinnacle of this sport.
Yeah.
So everyone wants to fight against the Thais. You want to beat a Thai. I'd fought a few Thais and I'd beat them. I'd knocked a couple of them out. I'd been to Japan and knocked out their number one guy. I'd actually fought in Japan twice at this time. I knocked out their number one guy and I beat their number two guy on points. And then I went back again for the third time and I knocked out the number one guy again in a rematch. So I had all this experience. And then my first loss, it was when I fought a Thai champion. He was called Duao Kong Udom. And there were a team of Thais came to England and it were like Thailand versus England. And these weren't just regular like Thais. They were all Thai champions. They were all former champions or current stadium champions. And the Thai I fought, because what happened is I went to fight this Thai who were a bit of a legend. He were a bit older. He were in his late 30s. He was still very good and he was a big legend in the sport, but he was coming to the end of his career. He got injured and then they put in like some young up and coming monster of a Thai. They went, oh, we've got this guy. And I'd never heard of him. And then I found out after the fight before me, he beat one of the biggest names in Thailand on points. So he was obviously like elite level, but I'd not heard of him, you see. So I was like, yeah, whatever, bring him. I'll knock him out. And in round two, I knocked him down with a left hook. And I remember at the time, feeling my knuckles through the glove hit him on the chin. And I thought, right, that's it, he won't get up. He bounced straight back up and he didn't have a gum shield in. And I remember looking across the ring at him and he smiled at me like that, and he had blood all over his teeth. And I thought, oh shit. I thought, what the fuck have I just done here? I thought, what have I done? And honestly, he absolutely battered me. He just came, he battered me. He won round 3, 4, and 5. So then he won the decision on points. He cut me with an elbow. He just absolutely just fucking wiped the floor with me. And it was the first time I'd been in a fight like that where like I'd either hit someone that I'd not, got back up and put it back on me, and just like losing for the first time. I was like, fuck me. So then I've got all these emotions rushing from here, thinking, am I not as good as I thought here? Can I not mix it with these guys? What do I have to do? So I went back. I'd been to Thailand for like a couple of months at a time or a couple of weeks at a time. After that fight, like that night, I went back home. I finished with my girlfriend who I was seeing at the time. 1 week later, I went to live in Thailand.
You've just glossed over that, and I was going to ask you about it, so I need to say this again. You were about 18 at this time?
Yeah, 18.
So you're 18 years old. You decide after you lose that you're gonna just go and live in Thailand. I think you did. Didn't you decide this also just before Christmas?
Yeah,
like, if your mum's anything like my mum, she would have been furious with you for leaving just before.
Fuming, mate. She was fuming, honestly. What do you mean? Now I'm off, mum. It was doing my head in, the fact that I just lost. And I remember being sat there. The fight, I think that fight were on 29th of November, 2004. And I remember I was just sat there and I'm thinking, fucking, I was doing my head in. So a week went past and I just couldn't get it out of my head. And I'm thinking, how can I cope with these? And I thought, you know what I'm going to have to do? I'm just going to fucking go to Thailand and fight with them out there and train with them in there, how they train, live how they live. And that's the only way that I thought I could, like, get rid of the demons. Because I thought I could have just stayed in England and I could have had 29 other fights against good level fighters, but not the elite level fighters. And I know a lot of fighters who've done that. They've made a whole career just like fighting decent Europeans and decent fighters, and they've had a lot more wins than they've had. Not many losses, but they've never like mixed it with the elites, so they'll never have that respect of people. And I thought, I don't want to do that. I thought, I don't want to be like a nearly guy. I thought, I want to be mixing it with the Thai champions. I want to hit guys like that, and when they get up and come at me, I don't want to fall apart. I want to fucking still go on and beat him. And I couldn't get it out of my head that I'd just been absolutely beat within an inch of my life in front of all my friends and that. I'm thinking, I'm not having that. So it just that was the only way that I could see that I'd get all these thoughts and all these demons out of me because they were eating me alive at the time.
And you said, oh, I also ended a relationship, but that wasn't like a 3 or 4 month thing. Hadn't you been together for about 3 years? And
Yeah,
then
we've been together since I was 15.
Fucking hell! Like,
Yeah, no. And
like
I just said, look, I've got some business I need to take care of. I need to go over there, and I need to put it right. I said, I'm sorry, I apologise, but I'm not going to be able to.
I hope that was a direct quote because you sound like you're like Liam Neeson in an action
Yeah,
movie or something like that. Sorry, love. I know I've been together 3 years. I've got some business to take care of.
I've got a specific set of skills.
Yeah, to be fair, I think I just probably waited till I'd flown over there and told her I was going for an holiday and went, right, I'm not coming home. I apologise.
Oh man, but I mean, have you always been that kind of single-minded and dedicated? Has that always been part? Because that's to uproot your whole life because you can't like compute or you can't accept that loss. You have to progress and move forward in your goal and that kind of drive and determination. Have you always been quite single-minded with that?
Yeah, no matter what I was doing, I'd always want to like be the best or like when I was playing football, I wanted to be the best. I wanted our team to win the leagues. I wanted to play at the best level. I remember we played in a tournament when I was 13 and we played Juventus because my football team were a semi-pro team. We went to France and we had half of the teams were semi-pro and the other half were pro. And we got to the semi-final and we played Juventus and they beat us on penalties. And I remember I was fucking furious with the team and everyone else were just like, we got to penalties against Juventus. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. I wanted to beat Juventus. I didn't want to get to penalties. And everyone else couldn't understand why I was so mad. And I think we should have won that. And going, yeah, but it's Juventus. I'm going, I don't fucking care. So I think that's just my my mindset.
Mum, I'm moving to Juventus tomorrow.
Yeah.
I just think, how are you with like board games at Christmas? I wouldn't want to be on a team opposite you at board games at Christmas.
To be honest, I've got a bit of ADHD, so I get obsessed with stuff. So like a fucking Thai boxing, I am totally obsessed with. Most other stuff, I can't concentrate on for more than like 30 seconds. So board games, I have no chance at that stuff. So
just touching on the move to Thailand, you know, aside from the fact that obviously you're then going to be training with the best, how was it like the language barrier and the cultural differences? Because, you know, if you're anything like me at 18, I wasn't a mature, switched on lad at 18. And like, you know, how did you find them kind of just a complete change of like, of everything really?
Yeah, well, I think it was just after my 19th birthday, I would just turned 19, I was. And I remember I went to the gym and I said, I've been to that gym a few times before, just like I'd been there for like 2 or 3 weeks at a time. And I went there for 2 months to do like a training camp and I fought in Japan, but I'd never actually fought in Thailand. So when I went there, I just said, look, I'd seen how they treated the Thais and the Thai champions in the gym. So I said to the coach, he was called JT, he had a good relationship with Richard from Bad Company and stuff. I said to him, I said, when I got there, I said, right, I want to live in the gym and don't treat me any different to how these guys get treated. And it was tough at the beginning. Like, obviously, I didn't know any Thai language. Not many of there were only like the gym owner who spoke English, or the other Thais, none of them spoke any English. There were a lot of other foreigners who'd come in and out of the gym, but at the time, I think there were only me and one other Westerner who were living there. So we lived like them. We got up at 6 o'clock every morning. We went to the park. And what I started to notice is after a bit, what the Thais would do is we'd go to the park in the morning to run around the park. They'd get there, they'd do a lap, like 1 lap. I'd have to do 3 laps and they'd just walk the rest of the time. They'd walk back to the gym. They'd buy a bottle of water from one of the stalls, pour it over the red and walk in the gym. So I've been doing like 3 times what they've been doing. They know how tired I was. And then they'd see me when they got back in the gym and they'd go, right, Liam, come on, sparring. Or clinching. And honestly, for the first like month, I just got battered every day. It was horrible. And then eventually I got used to the heat. Got used to their little tricks and stuff. I got wise to what they were trying to do and stuff like that. And yeah, after about a month, I started to start holding my own. And like even with the Thai champions and stuff like that, and they started to see me leveling up. And I was getting used to it. I could train as hard as they were. I was used to the heat. I was used to the regime. I started to get used to everything then. And you got to earn the respects out there. And I'd like to think I did that after about 6 weeks. I think everyone was like, oh, he's moved up a little bit now. He's moved up a level. I think I fought there about 15 times over the space of that 2 years. So I was like really regular on my fights. I got a lot of good experience. I won a world title there against a real good level fighter. I had a few nasty experiences out there as well. Like, obviously, I was out there fighting for money. I was only 18, 19 at the time. I didn't have much money saved up to go out with. I just said, like, look, I just want to fight regular for my money to live here. But I then started betting on myself in fights and stuff. And I bet on myself one time and I lost. So I had no money and I had to fight again 3 days later. 3 days later, either fight again or go back to England. So yeah, like I was doing some stupid shit like that. And obviously, if I wouldn't have been betting on myself, it wouldn't have mattered. But I literally didn't have any money. So I had to fight again after 3 days after having a real hard, tough fight against a good level Thai. And then having to fight again 3 days, that were like heartbreaking, really, having to do that. But it was all good experience, and it got me to where I got to today, really.
One of the experiences that I think happened to you out there, which I was trying to recount to Blake, and I'll ask you to recount a story correctly, if possible, Liam, was you took on a boxing match in Cambodia, right?
Yeah.
I'll take it that was for pound notes, right?
That was fucking absolutely ridiculous, mate. So what I did was I went to Thailand for 6 months, and then I need a month off because I'd fight like every month. So then I'd go back to England for a month. That would also, like at the time, it sort my visa out because my visa wouldn't last for more than 6 months. I'd have to leave the country. So I'd do 6 months, went back home for 3 weeks, rested, saw my family, went back 6 months, and that's how I was doing it. So this was my second stint there. So I've got back in my 3 weeks off in England. I'm not doing much training. I was just letting my body fully recover because I've been training 6 hours a day, twice a day, 6 days a week. I've been doing that for 6 months solid. I probably had 6 fights by the time I've been there, fighting every single month. Sometimes I'd fought twice in like the space of a couple of weeks. So my body were like in tatters. So I was going home, and that was just like my rest time, letting my body fully recover, then go back to Thailand. So I got back. I'd literally been in the gym half an hour, and then what happened in that gym was because there were a lot of foreigners who trained there. The promoters had come round to have a look at the foreigners and see who were there. So this promoter came in and he saw me training a little bit. He went, "Oh, I want him to fight boxing in 2 weeks." So my coach comes over and said, "Oh, you want to fight boxing?" I said, "Nah, no, I've never fought boxing." I said, "I don't know what I'm doing." He went, "No, it's good money." I said, "Look, I'm not bothered. I've never fought boxing." He said, "It's double the money that you'll get for Thai boxing." I went, "Oh, fuck it, go on then." So he said, "Don't worry. You're fighting a Cambodian guy. He's not very strong. You'll knock him out. Everything will be all right, and you'll get like double the money you'd have got, and then you can fight Thai boxing afterwards." And I thought, all right, okay. So I started training for the fight, and I was saying we had a boxing coach in the gym. So I got some boxing boots on and went to start training with him. And my Thai coach went, "No, just train like you're training for a Thai boxing fight." I said, I'm having a Thai boxing fight though. But yeah, but Thai boxing's harder, so you'll be fitter. So I thought, but where's the logic coming from here? Like, it's fucking ridiculous. But I'm not training. I said I need to learn how to move my head and stuff, because in Thai boxing, obviously, there's not much. You're pretty stationary, and you square on and you just fucking fight. In boxing, you can't just stand there like that because you'll get your lights punched out. So what he made me do was he made me train Thai boxing for the first 2 hours, and then for the last hour, he just let me go with the boxing coach, and then we just worked some like head movement and boxing pads and stuff like that. And I saw what he meant by, obviously, Thai boxing harder. You're kicking your knee, and it's a lot more explosive, and it is a lot harder than just punching when you're on the pads and stuff. But still, like, it was probably not the smartest thing to do, really. So then I said to my coach, I went, "Right, when we're leaving for Cambodia, is it like the day before the fight?" And he said, "Oh, I can't come." So I said, "Why?" And he said, "Oh, well, what they want to do is, because you're a Westerner and it's going on live on Cambodian TV, they want to like make it look like they've flown you in from England. So you need to go with another Westerner from the gym. So it looks like 2 English people have come together." And I thought, for fuck's sake. The only other Westerner in the gym at the time was my friend from Australia, who was a BJJ champion. He'd only had 3 fights, Thai boxing. So I'm thinking, fuck me, he's not very experienced. I've got to go to the head with him. I have him in my corner. No one else is going to be in my corner. I've never fought boxing. I'm going to need some sort of experience there. When shit hits the fan, then I start losing my fucking rags. I don't know what I'm doing. So anyway, we hopped on this little propeller plane, we were like one of the little shitty EasyJet planes. You get to from over to Belfast or something like that, no, with propellers. Hopped on that, and I could not get out of my head when that landed. And all TV were there and that. How the fuck have they thought a propeller plane has got all the way from England? I couldn't get it out of my head. That's all I could get in my head. And then I turned up, and I remember my coach had said to me, the fight, at the time, I was fighting at 63 kilos. He went, don't worry, this fight's at 67, so you don't have to lose much weight. I thought, he's probably going to be a bit big. So I've turned up, all these new TV cameras have met me and stuff like that. And they've pulled me, give me a newspaper, and the guy I'm fighting, he's in the centre pages, a big spread of him. You've got belts and trophies and all sorts all over. He was the Cambodian boxing champion. So I thought, I have been stitched up big time here. I thought I've been stitched up so bad. So I called my coach back in Thailand. I said, what the fuck is going on here? I said, what have you done to me here? He went, don't worry, he's not good. So I'm like, all right, okay. So I went to the weigh-in. At the time, I was 67 kilos. I jumped on the scales for like a little pre-weigh-in, like an hour before weigh-in, just to see what weight I was. And I think I thought I was fine at 67. I was 67.3. So I started putting the sweatsuit on because I thought, I've got to get the 0.3 off. And they went, oh, no, what are you doing? I said, I'm too heavy. I need to lose the weight. And they went, no, you're too light. You're fighting at 69. I went, oh, for fuck's sake. I thought he's going to be absolutely massive, this guy. And he was fucking huge when he came out to fight. So in round one, I remember thinking, right, I'll try and move my head a little bit. The first punch he threw hit me straight in the middle of my face and it broke my nose. So I thought, oh, fucking hell, this is going to be a long night, this. So I just stood there and I was just swinging my arms everywhere. For the first 2 rounds, I got pinged all over. And then right at the end of round 2, he walked straight onto a left hook and he dropped like a sack of shit and he were gone. He were totally out. The 8 count lasted about 30 seconds. The referee picked him back off the floor. So I ran in again to finish him. I've knocked him down again, so he got another count. The referee picked him off the floor again, took him to his corner and let him have a drink. So I would kicking and screaming and carrying on. And then the bell went, so he survived the round. I knocked him down again in round 4 and then knocked him down again in round 6 because he never really recovered. And I was lucky, really, because if he did recover, I was getting pinged all over in early 2 rounds. I'd have probably got battered. But yeah, that was just a crazy experience. But weird shit like that happened all the time in Thailand. Like, you end up just going out inside. You'd fight in some big stadiums and some real big prestigious events. And then maybe a couple of weeks later, they'll ask you to go fight in these in middle of woods in nowhere. And some little guy will just want to bet a lot of money. They're like, your guy versus this guy, let's bet a lot of money. And there's going to be no TV cameras, not a big show. Let's just go fight. But all them stories, that's life experience as well as fight experience, stuff like that. I know a lot of fighters nowadays will just come straight up the ranks and got signed straight to big promotions, and they won't ever have the chance to have these experiences like we had like that. Like at the time, there were me and my best friend my best friend coming back and forward, but he did a lot of these country fights. He'd just fight and then they'd go take him out to the country and he'd have lots of crazy fights out there and stuff. But I think that's just part of getting to the top. I think all them experiences like that.
Did you ever worry about if you again, because what you're saying is effectively out there, it was a bit underground. It wasn't it wasn't regulated, and dare I say, maybe some illegal hands were involved.
Yeah, probably.
But I mean, did you ever have a moment where you're like, oh shit, I've just smashed this guy and Joe Bloggs over there has bet loads of money on him. Are we going to get out of here all right or anything?
Do you know what? When you're fighting, the main thing is that's in the stadiums when stuff like that's happening, the main stadiums. So there's so much money that changes hands there. With them little country fights, you might have I don't know, 100 people around ring or something like that. But then on the main stadium fights, if you're fighting, say, on a Thursday night, which a few times I did, that's a big night in Rajadamnern in the stadium, you're going to have 3,000-4,000 gamblers there, hardcore gamblers. There'll be mafia ties going in and stuff like that. That's when all that, you're thinking, oh, fucking hell, this is a bit crazy, this stuff. I never really worried too much in them country fights because they were you might get 100 or 200 people around ring. I was doing it for experience. I'd not bet a lot of money on myself. There were it might have been 1 or 2 guys who wanted to bet. They'd probably known each other anyway. But in the stadiums, when there's 3,000-4,000 and it's just packed out and there's so much money changing hands, that's when there's a lot of underhand tactics that go on there and stuff. You hear about fighters getting given a drink before the fight and they've been poisoned and stuff like that. No, to try and Yeah, you hear that a lot.
Wow. I mean, not that anyone's ever going to question your physical strength, but I want to talk a little bit about sort of mental strength. And can you tell us a little bit about your relationship with Vinny Sharman? Why, because you don't hear many fighters talk about sort of having a mind coach and the benefits of that. And I just, if you don't mind telling us, like, what does that entail, and what have been the benefits of that?
So, Vinny, me and him have been friends since I was 15, 16. He was one of the coaches at a gym I used to go train at sometimes. Me and him, like, we hit it off straight away. And we just like had a really good bond and a really good friendship. He'd started doing the man coaching quite a bit before I first went to him. I'd seen some of the success he'd had with other fighters, but I always thought to myself that I was so like mentally strong that I never needed it. It wasn't until I had a fight in 2009, 25th of June 2009, I remember, I'll never forget it, against a Thai fighter called Anawat. And this was the first time I ever lost a fight by stoppage. It was in Jamaica. I won't go into the details too much because it was just a weird experience fighting in Jamaica. Like, it was just so chilled, and I ended up fighting him at like 3 a.m. Everything was just so late, and he just absolutely obliterated me. And I'm like, what the fuck just happened then? I'm like, how has that happened? And at the time, I must have had about 50 fights. I'd won 2 or 3 world titles, and I'd never been stopped. I'd never come close to getting stopped. And he just absolutely obliterated me. Now, Anawat was a Thai who had like a 70% knockout ratio. He's one of the hardest hitting Thais of all time. But still, to me, I thought, no, that's still not acceptable. I know everyone was saying, oh, don't worry, it's Anawat. He knocks everyone out. No, that is not acceptable. I knew I could beat him. So what I did was I asked the promoter in England, I said, bring him to England. I said, please bring him to England. I knew there were a big show coming up about 5 months later down the line. I said, let me fight him on this show. It was at MEN Arena in Manchester. It was absolutely packed out. I said, I want to fight him there in front of all my friends, all my family. Because I started getting slagged off on the internet after this fight. That was the first time I'd ever been like trolled online, because it was the first time I'd ever been stopped. Everyone like saying, oh, maybe Liam ain't as good as we all thought. Maybe this, that, and other. Maybe he's had his day. And I'm thinking, I've had his day. I thought, I'm only 23 or something, or 24. I've had my day. I thought, fuck me, no, 23 or what? I thought, how have I had my day? So I thought, you know what, I'll show these. I thought, get him in England in front of all my friends, all my family, on this massive show. Everyone will be there and everyone can see it. And then in the build up to the fight, Vinny said, do you want to do some work? And I thought, you know what, I know I'm going to train harder than ever, but there's no harm in trying to get my mind as strong as my body and stuff like that, because it was a fucking hard pill to swallow. Getting stopped for the first time. That it was like similar to like tasting defeat for the first time, because back then when I was 18, I thought I was invincible. Then I thought, right, okay, I can be beat. But I'd never been knocked out. Or, well, I didn't get knocked out. I got stopped. So I got like TKO'd in round 3. And that was a very, very hard pill to swallow when that happened. Because I thought, fucking hell. And maybe I'm just not as tough as I thought I was. But yeah, we did a lot of like mind work and stuff for the rematch. And it'll be catered different to everyone, because everyone's will have different stuff that they want to achieve, or have different problems going into a fight, or different worries and stuff like that. Mine was specifically just to fight this man. He put a few keywords in there. One of the words was warrior, and he told my corner team to keep saying warrior to him. And it's hard to explain what he did, but like a lot of like different hypnotherapy like techniques and stuff like that, and it worked a treat anyway, because I won the rematch like really convincingly. And it was one of my best performances. But I got hit with a left hook in round 4, which rocked me a little bit. And then after the fight, I collapsed in the after party, and the ambulance came and took me to hospital, and I had a really bad concussion. And I am so sure that in my head that if I wouldn't have had the word warrior in there, that shot would have knocked me out. Because I had to stay in hospital overnight. My girlfriend had to stay in with me and had to like get monitored all night and stuff like that. So it was like one of the worst concussions I've ever had. But yeah, at the time in the fight, my mindset was just so impenetrable. No matter what he hit me with, I walked through it, and I went on to win on points quite convincingly as well.
How scary was that? Like, if you've taken into hospital in like an ambulance or whatever because of a concussion at the after party, not not during the fight, but
Yeah, I didn't even get a
how
fucking
scary
pint.
was that?
I had a pint in me and I went to sip it and went, ugh, just passed out. I was devastated. biggest win of my career. I wanted to celebrate, but at the time, I didn't think it was that scary at the time. I just thought, oh, I'm a bit dehydrated or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, then when I watched the fight back and I seen him hit me with that left hook in round 4, I was like, yeah, that does explains a lot. Like, but yeah, at the time I wasn't too worried because I was just so until when I got into the hospital and stuff. And I started to come round and I started to feel a little bit better. At the time, I just felt like shit, and I don't think I really knew what was going on. I was a bit dizzy, or a bit like out of it. But then when I was in the hospital and I started to come round a bit, I just wanted to fucking get back to the hotel and celebrate my win. And I was going out with the fighters were in there celebrating. I'm thinking, I've just main event, MEN Arena. It's the biggest win of my career against one of the best known Thais, and I can't even celebrate it. I remember I got out of hospital at like 7 in the morning, and then there were a few fighters who were still up fucked. I thought, oh, I've missed it all now.
But I mean, all joking aside, did you kind of take it like afterwards? Has that kind of impacted you in any way since? Just to go, God, I need to be careful, or I need to kind of think about the long term effects of what I'm doing.
No, I've never been like ever gone into a fight or before a fight. I've never ever once worried about what might happen to me. I don't know why. That's just not. I know quite a few fighters who've got a little bit older and started to worry about getting hurt and stuff like that. And that is just something that never ever pops into my head, and it never has done. People say to me, because my style when I fight is hard punches, hard leg kicks. I've stopped a lot of people with leg kicks. So people always say to me, "Are you worried about breaking your shin?" And I say, no, I've never ever once worried about breaking my shin, and I don't worry about getting knocked out or a concussion or possible like brain injuries, because I know it does happen, but it's just something that never ever enters my head. The day that something like that does enter my head, I think that might be the time to maybe think, right, are you questioning what you're doing here? Because if you are, you can't be going into a ring with questions like that. Then you are going to get hurt. So maybe then that is time to call it a day. Because I know a few fighters who've done that who started to say, well, what happened? How come you didn't perform? And they said, oh, I was worried about getting hurt, and then they've retired. Right. I think when that does creep into my head, then that will be the time to call it a day.
We normally talk to mixed martial artists on this podcast. We predominantly talk about MMA. And one of the big things in MMA at the moment seems to be the calf kick. Yeah. Everyone's going on about the calf kick. I don't know if you watch much MMA or if you just solely watch like Muay Thai or anything like that.
No, I do watch it.
But there's a huge narrative going on at the moment. Like the calf kick is so damaging. I mean, some people have even said they want to make it illegal, which sounds crazy. But as a Muay Thai guy, you don't see the calf kick have the same kind of effect. Is that because it's checked more efficiently in Muay Thai, so people don't use it enough? Like what are the MMA guys doing wrong? Is this, I suppose, what I'm asking?
So the couple of reasons, like the MMA stance, their stance is a little bit wider, so they can't get the leg up as good to block as the Muay Thai stance can, because we're narrow stance, you see, we don't have to worry about getting taken down or anything like that. So that I can see what they're trying to do, but because their stance is wider, when they lift their leg up a little bit, you're going to kick their knee. If they react a little bit, you're going to kick the knee. So it has to be set up a little bit better. I think a lot of fighters are trying to do it and they don't set it up. They just fucking launch it. And that's why they're breaking the shins, some of them, and not snapping the legs and stuff like that. If you are going to do it, I'd try and set it up with like some punches or some fakes or something like that. I wouldn't just like literally try and volley it straight away. But again, it's like I say, it's the stance, because MMA fighters just the stance is so wide and they can't lift the leg fast to block. They are open to it, but if they do lift the leg up a little bit, you're gonna kick the knee and it's gonna fucking hurt.
But so from the perspective of the person receiving the calf kick, you think as long as they're checking it, they'll be right. It's the person opposite that will deal with the damage of that. Because what we're seeing mostly is, I know there has been a few leg breaks of late. We had Connor, although I don't think that was necessarily to a calf kick, but Uriah Hall was the main one against.
Yeah, that was horrible.
Chris Weidman and Uriah Hall. But a lot of what we're seeing is people receiving the calf kick, and very quickly after 3 or 4 calf kicks, like not being able to walk properly or having that drop foot thing happening. And from your perspective, you think, well, as long as you're checking that, you should be fine.
Yeah. In Thai boxing, we will stand with his leg like slightly out a little bit. So when we lift our leg, it's bone on bone. We usually get caught on the muscle. If you are lifting your leg up and you're getting caught on the side, in Muay Thai, you're blocking wrong, really. So I'd be telling them just to keep the leg out. If you're fighting someone who you know is going to like try and kick your calf, I tell them to keep your leg just out. Imagine a clock in front of you. I tell them to keep the leg facing 11 o'clock. So when you do just lift it once, they're going to kick nothing but bone. And once you kick bone on bone, whether it's shin on shin or knee on shin's the worst. If you do that once or twice, they'll stop kicking you 100%. I watched Edson Barboza's last fight, and he was just slinging them everywhere. And I was thinking, oh my God, he must not be able to walk the next day. But he's done that his whole career, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So he's the master of just like fucking smashing people's legs. But yeah, his last fight, I remember I could see him going for it every time. He was kicking knee, thigh, hip, car. He was just kicking anywhere that he could.
Are there MMA fighters that you particularly enjoy watching?
I'm really looking forward to Oliveira versus Poirier.
Oh,
I'm really looking forward to that because Oliveira, he's like a fucking rags to riches story. He got cut, didn't he? I'm sure he got cut before. He had a big losing. He had a losing streak though, didn't he?
Yeah, down at featherweight. Since going up to lightweight, he's done a lot better.
Yeah, exactly. He had that losing streak, and then he's just come back. And I think he's got the most subs in the history. And he's up there with the most knockouts as well, I think, now.
I don't know. I definitely think he's up there with the subs, if not even top of the subs.
Yeah, but yeah, I'll really enjoy watching him. I'm looking forward to him versus Poirier. Jose Aldo fights this weekend. I used to love watching him in his prime, and I wasn't sure whether he's just gone past it. But his last fight, he looked good again.
Man, he's looking great at the moment.
Yeah.
It's a big fight.
I'm interested in seeing how Cody Garbrandt does now. He's gone down weight because fucking hell, I saw a picture of him the other day and he looked gone already, and he's still a week out. Yeah,
and look at what happened with TJ Dillashaw. He went on the EPO, didn't he, to get down to 125? So I think that's quite fascinating because I think, Garbrandt's had a tough run of it lately with he's only won one of his last 5, but then that is against elite competition. He's lost twice to TJ, the Munoz loss, and then what was the other loss? Rob Font.
Font.
Well, Font is on a tear.
Yeah, Font's fighting soon as well, and he's
Aldo. He's fighting Aldo.
Yeah,
Saturday.
Yeah. That's a tough fight for Aldo, isn't it? That one, to be fair.
Yeah, but I think it's nice that you clearly are an MMA fan as well. You enjoy watching that. You've just listed a bunch of fighters that you like watching.
Yeah, definitely. I enjoy watching MMA. To be fair, I enjoy watching more of the strikers, obviously, because that's what I do. But I appreciate what goes into the groundwork and all that sort of stuff. Although I don't like to watch it myself, I understand how hard it is because I did one wrestling class before, and I thought, because I know how to clinch in Thai boxing, it's just same, but like you might be on floor. I got slung all over by some geezer who were about fucking 20 pounds lighter than me. It were embarrassing as fuck. I thought I'm never doing that again.
Have you had any sort of like mixed martial artists sort of reach out to you? Because obviously your stand-up's like such a high level, and obviously Muay Thai is a key factor in lots of mixed martial artists' approach to their techniques and stuff. Have sort of any MMA fighters ever reached out to you?
I've worked with quite a few UFC guys. I've flown out to America and I did a bit with Brian Ortega, T-City. I did some work with him. But I could not believe when I went to train with him. I was out in America. I was meant to be going to do some work with Cody, and he said, "Oh, can you come here first?" He said, "I've seen you here. I want to do a bit with you." So I turned up to train him, and he'd never done Muay Thai. I was like, "Eh?" I said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You're like ranked number 2 in the UFC." He said, "Oh, I've only ever done boxing and jiu-jitsu." I said, "I just saw you knock someone out with an elbow in your last fight." He went, "Fluke." He said, "No one's ever shown me how to throw an elbow."
Fucking hell, really?
Honestly, I swear, I couldn't believe it. And then he was like, when we were working, we trained for about 3 hours because there was so much that I wanted to try and show him in the time that we had. And he was just like a sponge soaking it all up. I think, I'd love to just stay these for 3-4 months just to, get you a few little fucking things that you can pick up. But yeah, I couldn't believe it because watching his fights with Holloway and people like that, I'm thinking, how on earth have you never done Muay Thai? But your stand up is like so good. And then when I went back and watched the fights with Holloway and that, and I'm thinking, well, he's just boxing really and stuff.
And were you training with him before the Volkanovski fight? Was that the fight you were training with him for?
No, he asked me to go out and do his camp with him for that fight. But because of all the bullshit travel restrictions and stuff, it's been too hard for me to get out there and stuff. So I couldn't help. I would have liked to help for that fight.
Yeah. I mean, that was a fight of the year. What a fight that was.
Me, mate. How did he get out of them chokes and stuff?
Oh,
I've never
unbelievable
felt like that.
It was but like twice. Was it the guillotine and then the triangle, and you're just like, Jesus Christ, unbelievable stuff.
That was round 3, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
But
was.
that round was absolutely unbelievable. And I'll tell you what, Brian Ortega is one hard man because he took some serious punishment.
Yeah, I mean, that was crazy. I mean, Liam, I'm really aware of we've probably gone over the amount of time that we had with you, but we really appreciate your time. I would love to end with one question, if you don't mind. I wanted to just ask, like, because it's quite a deep question, really, and we asked this to Dan Hardy a little while ago as well, and. Yeah, I still know people that say to me when I talk about like combat sports, MMA, anything like that, they think of it as barbaric or, you know, as something that we as a society should have evolved past that by now. And I wanted to ask you, you know, just like, why do you think combat sports are important? Not just for individuals in terms of like keeping fit, all that stuff, but from a societal perspective, like, is there something in it where you can say, I feel combat sports actually benefits society in some ways?
Yeah, I believe they do. Confidence, discipline, they keep you in check. Like, you can't just walk into a gym. If you're like a street kid, arrogant, chip on your shoulder, you can't just walk into a gym full of MMA fighters or Thai boxers or kickboxers and then you start shouting your mouth off the net. You're going to get brought back down to earth with a serious fucking smash off the floor. They teach you respect and discipline mainly. That's what I think. They brought me off the streets and stopped me being a little bastard when I was younger and stuff like that. So yeah, they taught me discipline. They taught me to respect. I respected like my coaches and my elders in the gym when I was younger. I'm waking my way up and stuff like that. I never like disrespect some of the older fighters, even though when I started to surpass them in my career and stuff like that, I still looked up to them. They were still like fucking heroes to me, even though I'd started like doing like winning more titles than they did, or winning more fights and stuff. I still had that respect for them. So yeah, respect and discipline, really. That's what I think it brings 100%.
Wonderful, Liam.
And the discipline part that comes in with the training and stuff like that. That just goes into every walk of life. Because if you're going to be disciplined enough to get up at 5 a.m. and go running, if you're going to be disciplined enough to spar and train, if you're going to be disciplined enough to diet and watch what you're eating and lose fucking 10 kilos over the space of a month because you need to make weight, you can be disciplined enough to do anything in life. If you can put yourself and your body through that sort of stuff, then anything else should be pretty easy for you to get hold of.
Wonderful. Liam, can't wait to see where you go next in your career. And honestly, thanks so much for giving up your time tonight, mate. It's been an absolute joy and a pleasure talking to you, mate.
Not a problem, mate. Next fight's on April 3rd. I'm fighting for the WBC Diamond World title.
And that'll be one
April
3rd
in London, yeah, in London.
Whereabouts in London? Do you know where?
It's at the O2 Indigo.
Brilliant. And do you know if that'll be something people can watch at home as well? Is there like a stream or anything?
It should be. The last show that I fought on last month was pay-per-view, so this one should be as well.
Brilliant. Well, look, let us know when you know all the details for that, and we'll put it on our socials as well, mate. Thanks so much. Best of luck with the fight.
Thank you very much. Cheers, guys.
Thanks loads, mate.